Hello guys and welcome to the part 2 of the tutorial. Here you have the timeline if you want to jump to one part of the video. And remember that in part 1 you have the starting project. Here in the description you will also have the project for this part. Okay, so let's continue. Okay guys, so two fast things. First we are going to set this as the main scene. Okay, right click in the fight scene and we are going to set it as main scene, and just we are going to set this as our main picture for the project. Okay, so we are going to go to project settings and then we are going to set as an icon here. So every time, for example, we open the tutorial, we will have this picture just in case to organize all the projects that we have. Okay, and now what we're going to do is to add a script to the player. Okay, so we are going first, it's better to go to the inherited scene and we are going to create a scene for the player. But I realized that first I like to be organized, so I'm going to create a new folder called scripts. Okay, so we have a folder dedicated for all the script that we have in the game. So yes, we are going to click to attach and this will call player. It's okay. And okay, the path is not in scene, the path is in script. Okay, so we click open and now we have what we want. So what we want to do also, we want to change this because spine sprite could be for the player or could be for the enemy. So we are going to call player spine. Okay, so we are sure that this is unique and we are going to call this node on ready bar player spine. We're going to put the same name and we're going to name it. That will be spine sprite. Okay, and we are going to take this node. And now what we are going to set is to set the first animation when the game starts to the player. That will be the idle animation. Okay, so we are going to do it in the ready function. Okay, and what we are going to call is our node, spine node, and then we are going to get animation state, set animation, yes, and we're going to say, let me check one moment, the name of the animation, that is Throno Idle. Okay, so we're going to call this Throno Idle. Okay, then what we want this animation to loop. Okay, the second parameter is if want to loop or not. If we write false, it won't loop, and then we just set the track that we want the animation to play. Okay, so at the beginning, if we hit play, nothing will happen because if I'm not wrong, there is no idle animation. Okay, setting, but at the moment when we in Spine create this animation that we'll do in this tutorial, so we are going to see it running. Okay, now what we are going to do is to set up the input for the player. Okay, this we need to do it in handle input. It's convenient to do it here because it will not interrupt with the menu. Okay, for example, if we pause the game, it won't the player, and we hit one key, the player won't hit. So this is why put the things that moves the player in unhandle input. So we need to do first if, let's put it here, if input, okay, dot is action press, and we are going to put jab. Okay, do something. Okay, so if we have the key Q press, we are going to do something. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to put another if input. Now we just want an is action just press, okay? Because we just want to press once. For example, left, then we are going to perform the animation. So we are going to we are going to call the node, and we are going to set the same get animation state, set animation, and we are going to call it, if I'm not wrong, it will be thrown on left jab, but let's be sure in order not to forget how to write it. Okay, so let's go here and let's see, it'll be thrown underscore left jab. Okay, so we're going to call it thrown left jab. Okay, and then at the moment this is what we want. And we have another option that, for example, when we hit the jab, when we hit left, we can also hit right, but we have only one option. Okay, so we don't want to do at the same time. So this is what I am doing like elif, because we are doing or this or this. So we here do the same. If input is just action just press right, okay, then we copy the same here, player spine, get animation state, so we change right, and now we have code the left and the right jab. Okay, here we cannot forget that we this time don't want to set the looping. Okay, we don't want the animation to loop, and with this we are going to be ready to check if it's working or not. Okay, let's see it. So let's run the main scene, and let's press Q. Let's go here, let's press Q, and as you can see, it's working. We have another thing that is not it's not going back to idle. Okay, so we need to fix that, but at the moment it's not important. Okay, we are keep going to add the attack. Something that I noticed that we need to do is to go to project settings, okay, and in mode we're going to put 2D, and aspect we're going to hit expand. Okay, in that way, when we hit play, we save it, and when we hit play, we're going to see in the screen all the what is see in the viewport. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, so we keep with the same logic, because when the player hit press the jab action, he will not press the other keys. Okay, so we need to say, or he's pressing 1, or he's pressing 2, or he's pressing 3. So elif input is action just press. In this case, for example, hook. Okay, because if the player is doing a jab, he's not doing a hook. Okay, so this is what I want to express, that he's just doing one thing at one time. Okay, and again, if we hit the left mouse, we are going to do that animation. Okay, we are going to copy this again, and throw left, in this case let's put left hook. Okay, close the bracket, and then we do the same. If input is action just press right, because we only want to be hit once, we copy this again, and we are going to put right hook. Okay, and then we jump to buttons with the uppercut. Is action press uppercut? I think we put uppercut, right? But it's at the end, right? Yes. Then we do the same. Okay guys, now let me explain you the game mechanic that I want to implement that will be very interesting. So we have here the player, okay? And here is the enemy that is much bigger than the player. So if the enemy do, for example, a left jab, right jab in his case, the player will dodge to the left side, okay? But if the player do a right jab, the player will dodge to the right side. How are we going to implement this? For sure, we can do like just left key and right key, right? But what we are going to do is to save input. And how are we going to do this? So with the mouse, okay, if when the player attacks, we are going to move to the right in this case, okay? When the enemy attacks, we are going to dodge to the right. And if we move a little bit the mouse to the left, the player will perform a left dodge. Okay, so let's see how we are going to implement this by code. Let me just tell you. Okay, so if event is input event mouse motion, we are going to put this in unhandle input event. So let's go here. So this means that if we are moving, right? How can I just erase this? Fuck, it's in the same layer. Okay guys, now let me explain you the game mechanic that I want to implement that will be very interesting. So we have here the player, okay? And here is the enemy that is much bigger than the player. So if the enemy do, for example, a left jab, right jab in his case, the player will dodge to the left side, okay? But if the player do a right jab, the player will dodge to the right side. How are we going to implement this? For sure, we can do like just left key and right key, right? But what we are going to do is to save input. And how are we going to do this? So with the mouse, okay, if when the player attacks, we are going to move to the right in this case, okay? When the enemy attacks, we are going to dodge to the right. And if we move a little bit the mouse to the left, the player will perform a left dodge, okay? So let's see how we are going to implement this by coding. First, in unhandle input event, we are going to put another condition that is if event is input event mouse motion. This means if the mouse is moving, okay, this is something that we are going to see later. You don't need to see this and this at the moment. Let's just jump to here, okay? So if the mouse is moving, if from where we are, if we move to the right 15 pixels, this means that we are dodging right. Okay, so we are going to put the animation Chrono is dodging right. Okay, and then the same, the opposite, if from the place that we are, where is the pointer of the mouse, if he moves 15 pixels to the left, this means that he's doing the left dodge. Okay, so we are going to set the animation to the left dodge. This is what we are going to do first. Why we are using 15 pixels? Is because it has to be like a really hard movement, something that is noticeable. Okay, if we move just a little, we don't want to dodge. Just if it's something that the player really move the mouse. And this, what we are going is like doing the imitation of the feeling when you are boxing, okay, and you are like moving your torso, Okay, try to dodge or try to block the punches that your opponent is doing. Okay, so this is why 15, because it's notable enough to feel that the player is dodging. You can put it more or less as you want. Okay, so let's implement this. So we are in the function and handle input event, and we are going to say if event is input mouse motion. Okay, if event is input mouse motion, what we are going to do is if event get relative to x more than 15 pixels, let's just play the animation of right dodge. Okay, so we go to dodge and put it here. But if the event get relative is minor than minus 15, so if it's moving 15 pixels to the left, so do the same but with the left dodge. Okay, do the same but with the left dodge. So let's see if this is working or not, and see. I think it's okay. Let's see. Okay, so we move to the right and we move to the left. Okay, there is some kind of you can see that sometimes the player is like moving right, it's like tilting something. So I think it's because of this. Okay, it's because of because we put the idle to loop, and we don't want this at the moment. I'm not sure if this is what is making this to look like this, but we are going to turn it false anyways because we want to do it in using another code to set the idle function. Okay, and another thing that it can be like maybe useful is to take out the event, and we are not going to say okay, event is always input event. No, because it can be input event mouse motion, because I'm not sure, maybe you can tell me if input event is in a higher hierarchy than input event mouse motion. Okay, so like maybe this is inherited by, I don't think so, let's see. Input event, no, it doesn't look like that. This is, they are like two different things. Okay, so let's check again if everything is working. Right, left, right, left. Okay, and we have this problem that we don't want to happen, and we are going to solve it now. So now I want to explain that we are going to use like two signals, okay, from the spine sprite. So the first one is, as you have seen, when we move a little bit the mouse, we have this problem that the animation repeats itself twice. Okay, so what we need to do is, meanwhile we are doing the animation, we disconnect player input process. So this means the player, if he hits, if he moves the mouse of it, he hits a key, he will not be able to, Godot will not recognize this input. Okay, we will not process this input, and then when we finish, when we are in the position that we have dodged, then we can come back and set all the input to true, and then we can move again and hit if we want. Okay, so this is the first signal that we're going to see. When spine animation start, if the animation name is right dodge or left dodge, if what this means is if we are performing this animation, if we are playing this animation, please set input and unhandled input false. Okay, but when the animation finish, you don't worry about this. When the animation finish, if this is something that we are going to put now, if the animation name is not idle, okay, we are going to set up the input process to true. We can add a GL of a little bit of time. I don't remember why I added this, but we can try without it and with to see the difference. Okay? And when we finish, we go back to idle. Okay? This is like back to idle that we want to add instead of looping when in the function ready the idle animation. Okay, so let's do this in the code. Okay, so let's minimize this and let's go to 2D. Let's hit the inspector and go to node. And here we are going to use two signals. The first one will be animation started, this one, and we are connected to the script. And then we are going to use another one that it will be, yes, let's go to the node again, and it will be complete, okay? So we have these two that we need to do. Then the tutorial in the Spine website, what it do is like connect signals to the animation, but we are going to do easier, okay? We are going to name each one of the arguments. So this will be spine sprite, okay? This will animation, spine animation state, okay? And this will be track entry, spine track entry, okay? And what we are going to do is to check if this is the same argument, and we are going just to copy all these arguments to here, okay? And once it's copied, we have the function. We don't need to connect because it's something that is done in the tutorial, okay? So in the Spine esoteric software, you can find this. So let's go. When the animations start, what we are going to say is if track entry, okay? Track entry dot get animation, then get name, and then we're going to say is equal to throno left dodge, or okay, or the same is equal to throno right dodge in this case, okay? If it's equal to this, we are going to set process. Let me see, because it seems that we have a problem. If track entry align or align break, fine. I have pass. My God. Okay. Then set process input to false and set process and handle input. In this case, I think we only need to make an handle input, okay? To false. We don't need to do this because we put the mouse motion in the process in the handle input, okay? Okay, now let's go into the animation complete, that is when the animation finish, okay? So if track entry, okay, let's get animation dot get name, okay, we need to put get name is equal to, is not equal to throno idle. Okay, if it's not equal to throno idle, what we are going to do is set process set and handle input true. Okay, and let's go back to player spine, get animation state set animation to, let's copy the first one to this one. Okay, so let's see how it works. How is it working, the two signal? So now I move and you see the player is going back to idle, and if I do like this, it just will do when it's finished. So it's up to us to do what we want, and we can attack, and now it's also going back to idle, as you can see. You see, it's going back to idle. We can mix the way that we want, but right now it's not important, but things are looking like very smooth, right? It's looking good, and yeah, we can see a little bit of, this is getting a little bit weird at the moment, but it's about the animation and the mixed transition, that this is something that we can change.